Now that we've established effective and efficient grading practices that you can implement immediately in your classroom, practices that will allow your students to grow academically and allow you to find a work-life balance, now let's look at an additional benefit of the grading method: improved student mental health. As I began to dive into the research surrounding effective grading practices, I began to find information about a topic I didn't really expect: the correlation between feedback and student mental health. I was completely ignorant of the effect my feedback strategies might have on my students. I only provided feedback the way my teachers and professors had, marking up my mistakes, offering occasional encouragement, and making way too many suggestions on way too many aspects of their writing. Sadly, I was unaware of the negative effects certain grading methods could have on my students, while also remaining ignorant of ways I could instill confidence and pride in my students through the way I provided feedback. One straightforward example of this is the dreaded red pen. Dukes and Albanese conducted a study about the negative effects of a red pen on student mental health. Their study found that the red pen brought negative emotions to students and discouraged them more strongly than teaching them. I never really made this connection when I was a student. Most of my teachers, after all, used a red pen. It made sense to me at the time. Red stood apart from the black words. It was a bold color that was easy to read, and it made a statement. After learning about this study, however, I began to realize how large of a role our subconscious can play in reacting to feedback. Similarly to the research behind the 4 pillars, where we discussed how making too many comments on a student paper can lead them to feeling more discouraged and less confident in their ability to improve, the red pen essentially has the same effect on students, probably without them even overtly realizing it. Another study focused on 2 types of feedback: improvement-oriented feedback and achievement-oriented feedback, differentiating the 2 types of feedback by their ultimate goal: to either help the students improve in a particular area for the sake of personal and academic growth, or to help them achieve a specific grade. Ultimately, this research concluded that improvement-oriented feedback has been shown to be more effective at increasing student achievement than achievement-oriented feedback. The research connected students' mental and emotional states with their level of achievement. If they felt as though their professors were invested in their growth and development, they were more likely to invest in improving and then ultimately achieving higher scores. Conversely, if the students were only focused on a grade or thought that their teachers were only concerned with test scores, the feedback is less effective because it's focused on a specific outcome rather than wanting to help a student truly learn and grow. This is why, when we talk about the methodology behind the grading method, so much focuses on the process of learning, of thinking about learning, of reflecting on learning. These aspects of the feedback process are instrumental in making it both effective for students while also increasing student buy-in by showing that the teacher cares more about the student's overall growth rather than a specific grade. Even more studies have explored the role of a teacher's feedback in helping improve student mental health. Skipper and Douglas advise teachers to avoid personal criticism, which may negatively impact the student-teacher relationship. Their research showed the importance of focusing on building a positive student-teacher relationship in order to establish a safe space, and a key part of developing that relationship is how teachers provide positive and constructive feedback. Further, Murtaugh states that while some teachers aim to mark every piece of people's written work for perceived motivational benefits, such a strategy can undermine people's intrinsic motivation and lead to a culture of overdependency, whereby the locus of control with regard to feedback lies solely with the teacher. Here's a quick definition of the internal versus external locus of control. People who develop an internal locus of control believe that they are responsible for their own success. Those with an external locus of control believe that external forces, like luck, determine their outcomes. Based on Murtaugh's research, one key aspect to improving mental health is by moving the locus of control back to the student. Through his study, teachers can actually help their students be more confident and feel more in control if they provide the students more opportunities to improve their work rather than giving them all the answers to what they need to fix. The process of involving students in their own learning, in fact, in giving students ownership over their own learning, leads to increased engagement and a more positive self-esteem because they are proud of their work. Again, this leads back to P and STEP, personal responsibility. Providing students a chance to own their learning also improves their mental health and confidence. The claim about locus of control in relation to student mental health is supported in another study. Results suggest that beliefs about control affect beliefs about one's self-worth and coping strategies, which in turn can affect one's mental health. The study explored students with an outer locus of control who were more likely to suffer from anxiety and depression. Conversely, if a teacher can help a student work toward gaining an inner locus of control where they feel that they are in charge of their own success and can provide feedback that allows the students to take pride and ownership in their learning, this again demonstrates how a teacher's feedback can improve students' mental health. Continuing with the importance of teacher feedback in fostering positive student mental health, one final study provides some key insight. Carlton Fong's research explores 5 recommendations for providing feedback to students in a way that develops positive emotions rather than harmful ones. His first recommendation is the necessity of showing a clear path toward improvement. When teachers give students feedback without providing any opportunity for growth or any possibility to improve, they are taking away the student's ability to maintain an inner locus of control and remain in control of their grades and lives. For instance, when, in my first few years of teaching, I'd make comments like, "explain further," or "you need to develop this analysis more." In other words, when I didn't adhere to the pillar of easily understandable, I was actually impeding my students' path to success because I wasn't providing a clear path toward improvement. I was making vague comments, but without any concrete steps students could make. They'd end up discouraged and disappointed because they didn't know how to fix their papers. His second recommendation further develops the first, providing feedback that bolsters students' sense of self-efficacy or ability to learn from feedback may elicit pleasant emotions. Again, allowing students the opportunity for growth and the room for improvement leads to positive emotions because it allows them to be in control of how they can learn from the feedback. Fong's third recommendation is to consider the expectations of the feedback receiver. And a key idea he provides is using a rubric so that the receiver is aware of how he or she will be assessed. And so there are no discrepancies between the teacher's feedback and the student's expectations. Sounds kind of like Fong would be strongly supportive of our student-designed rubric. Fourth, he encourages feedback that reinforces notions of respect and care. Here, the student-teacher relationship is again taken into consideration. The teacher's tone when providing feedback is essential so that the student knows the teacher cares more about their growth than an academic score. That's why, when I now go through the steps of the grading method, I try to use language about helping my students learn and grow as writers and thinkers rather than focusing on achieving a specific score. This is another reason why I never look at a student model when that student's in the classroom. I always pick models from other class periods because I never want to create an environment where a student feels attacked or doesn't feel safe. These are essential considerations with reinforcing notions of respect and care in the feedback process. The last recommendation is giving constructive feedback that can also enhance subjective task value, perhaps by providing a rationale or demonstrating the utility of improvement on the task. This fifth suggestion demonstrates the importance of making the work meaningful for students. In other words, avoiding busy work and assigning work that matters. It also helps to walk students through why you're assigning a particular task and what its purpose is for them in the learning process. All of Fong's suggestions are aimed toward creating positive emotions in students when they receive teacher feedback, which in turn allows students to more effectively learn and grow and improve, while also allowing teachers the opportunity to support their students' mental health. These 5 recommendations are also all taken into account when we created the grading method. The goal of this series is to decrease teacher burnout while also helping students. In addition to helping them grow academically, a huge benefit of this system is that it helps foster positive student mental health by providing feedback in an intentional, research-based manner. In a brochure created by the UC system titled Promoting Student Mental Health, a guide for UC faculty and staff, one particular section includes some key findings about feedback for students. Treating students with respect, fairness, and objectivity, especially when their work may not be meeting expectations, is critical to their success. That's something I want us all to remember as we go forward and implement the grading method. You could do all the steps the right way, but the delivery is the most important part. Make sure your students know how much you care about their learning, that you're invested in seeing them learn and grow. Talk to them about the process. Tell them why you provide feedback the way that you do. Explain the science and the research. Involve them in the process and treat them with dignity and respect. This will go a long way in establishing a classroom learning environment conducive to student growth and healthy mindsets. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this journey to grading freedom. It has been such a pleasure. We are excited for you to step out of teacher burnout and step into grading freedom. Thank you for joining us on this journey to a better work-life balance.